Jim, this is Becky. In the past, you have mentioned the Magdalenes in the plural.
Yes.
And I did not understand that, and I wondered if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, great question. It's amazing so few ask that question, but it's a great question. As I've described masculine and feminine, from the standpoint of feminine has flow and masculine has structure, very fundamental, simple. As you mature, as a being matures, as you begin to remember yourself, there are presentations like the word gracious or like the word of capable. They have configurations to them that represent that presentation. When you start to play with this aspect of feminine flow, and it's played with in the creative nature of making things happen, it begins to be very integral to the creative process. It's not called feminine or masculine anymore. It is a creative essence, an aspect of the flow and the manifestation of creation. We know it in a very tremendously narrowed down place of male bodies and female bodies, and then you start to get out of 3D and flow and kindness and softer words, structured words begin to make more sense in your vocabulary. But when it gets to certain types of creative processes, there is an aspect of feminine that is presented in the form of Anna. Anna being a representation, a symbol of a wisdom, an old sage that has this clear seeing and has this great wisdom, and that wisdom in a feminine presentation is made in that category. Mother Mary being another configuration of feminine in terms of gathering, holding, nurturing, directing, raising. That's a feminine characteristic. The Magdalene energy is an energetic of creation that has a lot of fire in it, a lot of spontaneity in it, a lot of joy in it. But there are 4, 5, 6, probably a lot more than that, configurations of the expression of joy with explosive excitement. And they're unique representations of that category that would be put into the words of a young teenager that has wisdom and excitement and beauty and all of that. Where we're playing, there are 4 or 5 different configurations. Think about them as young girls that have different characteristics, but they're all young girls. And so this Magdalene energy is energies of expression that allow this spontaneous creation in a very exciting manner that, once beginning to be understood, is quite amazing to play with. It's one of those things where it could have been spoken Magdalene as a singularness, which really keeps you somewhat locked into the biblical structuring of what that is. One of the purposes was to blow open that stereotype of the religious structure of a Mary Magdalene, because that energetic, as it's been explained, and I've seen it, was so much more than is even basically spoken to if you could read all the texts that were, written about it back then. Does that help?
It does.
And I can say more if you like.
It's complicated. Well,
yes.
Feel free.
Yes. So the complicated is kind of on purpose, not to be confusing complicated, but the mere fact that you can call it complicated has interrupted the point of reference at, Magdalene energy. And then it starts to be labeled into the ley lines and into the rose lines and into the Knights Templars and all the history, but all the history is history. And so we were really interested in disrupting everybody's limitation when they would hear the word.
Well, I think you've succeeded in that.
Great. Now the next part for you is to be curious. Be curious.
Well, which is why I asked.
So now that you have a little bit more information, what would that feel like?
What it felt like, it was like, the muses, there were different muses for different things, and when you were explaining it, to me it was like the muses, so they're like different parts of the joy, just different avenues and different aspects.
Yes.
But they're all part of the same nature.
Yes. But if I just left it in Magdalene, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
And there would be preconceived concepts. So what I'm saying to all of you is, can you make that curiosity, think about it in exciting ways, not limiting ways, but think about all the things that young 14-year-old, 16-year-old, with all that female energy, all that passionate energy, all that curiosity, all that energy, what would that feel like running through your body? It's extremely uplifting. And in the case of the presentation of Mary Magdalene, in most of the books that don't exist or have been burned or have been destroyed, she was the daughter of a king, and she was really well educated. She was an incredible sailor. There were years where she disappeared. Nobody talks about that. I'm not comparing it to Jesus disappearing for 3 years, which was a journey around the world of extraordinary fascination. He just went around the world. I mean, like all around the world. And he shows up in the Americas. And there's stories in the Mohawk Indians about Jesus showing up. Nobody knows that. But Magdalene, Mary Magdalene, she was an extraordinary sailor. She disappeared for a number of years and went all over the world as a woman with just tremendous power. There's stories about her in South America. Oh, I can't remember the name of the tribe. Talking about this woman that showed up and came and was greeted by the wise women and the shaman women. And there was, in a lot of these South American tribes, Central American tribes, Indonesian tribes, the woman really played an extraordinary role. And she went to those places and was very, very well received. Went to places where it was male-dominated and basically created a whole different point of reference.
Fascinating.
Yes.
You could talk about this for hours. Yes, we could. And so, see, that's, now you just asked the question, and there's your answers. Thank you. That was fun.
And be curious. Go to bed and say, I want to know the answer to the story. You probably will get a lot of information in terms of some of those stratas. One of the stratas that she spent time with is the strata of the earth goddesses, like Tara. There are many earth goddesses. They're very stabilizing factors in and amongst the elementals, not making them being unstable, just in the relationship and the guidance. The energetics of these earth goddesses and beings like the Magdalenes playing in that arena was very much to raise the capacity of the elementals in ways that kept them stable too.
Okay.
But when you go to sleep in a curious, interested state, ask the question.
Yes, I will.